What's up? This is Technically Correct with Tyler Bischoff. And on today's show, you're not going to believe this, but the SEC and Big Ten want to spend so much money that nobody else can actually compete with them. And is Bill Foley sounding desperate to land an NBA expansion team in Las Vegas? You got a second show this week. You can thank the United States for being so good at soccer that their third game in the group stage didn't matter at all. So I'm still here and here to do a show for you. And we're going to talk about money in college athletics because, good God, it's the off season and that's the only thing there is to talk about, apparently. Can we just get to the actual season when there's games and I don't have to be concerned with how much money people are spending or not spending to ruin? Maybe fix? Probably not, though. College sports. Ross Dellinger of The Athletic actually wrote the story for On3. So I guess it's Ross Dellinger of On3. Wrote a story where there are athletic directors and presidents, and I'm assuming head coaches are somewhere in this too, that want to raise the salary cap for college athletics. So right now, as of last year, it was the first year that revenue sharing came in place, where the schools directly paid players through revenue sharing. They don't want you to call it a salary cap because that would imply they're making a salary, which would imply that they're employees. And they're not allowed to be employees still, despite making money, despite getting paid. But there's a salary cap, and it's $20.5 million. Well, according to Ross Dellinger's story, some people want that to go to $40 million. And specifically, administrators in the SEC and the Big Ten want that at $60 million. Now, not all of them, but some of them want that salary cap to go to $60 million. Now, the very first thing, the immediate reaction should just be, what's the point of the salary cap then? What's the point of capping pay if the highest spenders come in and say, hey, we're just going to raise this higher and higher? That defeats the entire purpose of the salary cap, right? The salary cap, the purpose of a salary cap is to make the teams equal or close to it in a sense that you just can't buy whatever you want. You can't just fix any roster building problem or scouting issue by just buying it. This would, while still having a $60 million cap in place, effectively eliminate that. Right? Because how many schools are going to be able to spend a $60 million? Not many, right? We're putting in a salary cap that not many teams are going to be able to even get to, which means why do we have a salary cap in the first place, right? Again, the point of the salary cap is to make it a level playing field. In professional sports, the other big part of it is so that the owners don't spend more money and they can't be done with their money because there's a salary cap in place and to suppress player salaries. That's a fight for Major League Baseball players right now. But one of the key things that we see in professional sports, and we don't see it at least overtly as much in college sports because the salaries of all the players aren't as public as they are in professional sports, and it hasn't taken on its own thing. It probably will in the future, but it's the idea of teams having to make decisions. What position is important? What players are a priority? Where are you willing to go cheap or cut talent or cut payroll at this position because you want this position to be stronger? Parker Fleming, good follow on Twitter if you like a bunch of advanced stats. He tweeted, I want athletes to be compensated, but I also think football is fun when every team has to make decisions under scarcity. Decisions with scarce resources. And one of the best examples in professional sports of where we as fans find it to be incredibly annoying is the Dodgers, right? Major League Baseball does not have a salary cap, at least not yet, right? And the Dodgers ownership truly ignores any constraints for salary. Lots of other owners put their own constraints on how much money they spend in baseball, despite there, again, not being a real salary cap. The Dodgers over the last few years have just decided we do not care at all about the luxury tax or anything. We're just going to spend money. And what it means is that in an off season where they say, hey, we need some bullpen help, they go and get the best free agent closer available. Hey, we need a better outfielder, they go and sign the best outfielder that's available. And by the way, that's off the back of them winning the World Series. The Dodgers are a very well-run organization from top to bottom. They produce talent that comes up from their minor leagues. They don't just go out and buy it all, right? And again, they're willing to spend money that these other owners, well, I shouldn't say they can all spend what the Dodgers spend, but they could all spend more money. But part of what's annoying for other fan bases is that's an organization that never has to make decisions. They do not have to decide, okay, we need another outfielder, but we also need some bullpen help. Which one is more important, right? They just do both. They just say, we're going to sign Edwin Diaz and we're going to sign Kyle Tucker, right? That's just a decision that they don't have to do. They don't have to deal with those hard types of choices. They don't have to say, well, we're going to have to cut some payroll here to make the Edwin Diaz contract work. No, they just make the Edwin Diaz contract work. And to give you an example, one that I'm familiar with as an Astros fan, the Astros this offseason traded away their best utility player and a left-handed hitting outfielder just to cut salary, right? They used some of that money to go and add some pitching because they had so many pitching injuries last year, but that they made a choice. They said, we're going to make our position players, our offense worse, and we're going to try to use that money to make the pitching better. Those are decisions we're used to seeing in sports with a salary cap, right? Other sports, the NFL and the NHL, they have salary caps and salary floors, by the way, to try to make everything equal. But you also have to make these decisions, right? The NHL, I think the cap and the floor, it's about $30 million apart. And in the NFL, though granted, you can move money to future years and it's really complex. But the cap and the floor are, the floor is 90% of the cap. So the theory there is that every team should be spending about the same amount of money, and the winner, right, the best teams are going to be the ones that do a best job of allocating those resources, those finite resources, or the best job of developing talent, whatever it is, right? It's going to be the ones that are basically the most efficient with their money, right? So having a salary cap that right now at 20.5, what? Maybe half the teams in college athletics can reach that 20.5 cap. I don't know if there's an actual number that's been reported on how many teams were at that 20.5 million, but I think all but like one or two of the group of five were not at 20.5 million, right? But having that cap where half of college football or college sports can't spend to it, and then tripling it to where, 10, 12, 15 can reach 60 million? Again, there's no point of a salary cap. If we have a sport where Ohio State is going to spend 60 million on its players, and then Kansas State is, all right, cool, we'll spend 30, that's what we can afford, and then UNLV is like, all right, we can get to 9, and Wyoming's like, we only got 3. That's what are we doing? Like that's the cap is supposed to make things more even, and this is not going to be anywhere close to that, right? That's the reality of it. Now, here's my answer to this. I think there's two answers to this. One would be get rid of the salary cap. Just say, no, thank you. We're just not going to have a salary cap. You can pay the players however much you want to pay the players, Ohio State, right? Wyoming too, but we know it's not going to be very much, right? You can pay those players however much you want. But, and this is where propaganda has worked in sports for so long, what would have a more negative reaction among fans and some media? Hey, we're raising the salary cap to 60 million, or hey, there's just not going to be a salary cap for college athletes. Because it's eliminating the salary cap. If you raise it to 60 million, people are going to be like, oh, there's still a cap. You can't pay them whatever you want. And they're not going to, how many people are going to realize, oh, only 10 schools can do that? Whereas if you came out and just said, we're getting rid of the salary cap, there would immediately be people saying, oh, the athletes are making too much money. I can't believe they need more than 60, 70, $80 million. Like, it's too much money for the players. So there's what should just be an abolished salary cap if this is the plan. You can't really do because of public perception. It'll be so bad. But it's just, it's ridiculous. The other answer, by the way, is redistribution of all this money. Ohio State wants to spend $60 million on its players. Cool. The entire Mountain West is getting $60 million from you as well. Like that, if we want a salary cap sport for the sake of parity, Again, not for the sake of saving owners or, in this case, boosters or athletic departments money, for the sake of parity. If that's why we want the salary cap in place, redistribute the money. You want to spend $60 million on your players? Cool. You're sending a big check over to the Sun Belt, right? Like that should be the case. So that then, hey, we have a salary cap in place. Those other schools can actually compete with you. And maybe that's not fair, right? Maybe it's not. Maybe, hey, Ohio State, Alabama, you got more money than everybody in the Mountain West combined, probably. So why should I have to give them any of my money? Because you want parity. I mean, you don't want parity, but the sport itself is putting in a salary cap and is trying to say we want some form of parity. So those are the two answers. Get rid of the salary cap altogether, or, sorry, there's a luxury tax system in place where you have to pay the schools that don't make or don't spend as much money as you. Also, funny. How are we in a position in college sports where college sports needs to be saved because the athletes are now making money and these athletic departments are going to cut all of these smaller Olympic or women's sports because, oh my God, the athletes we have to pay them now and we can't afford it. Congress, you got to step in and save college sports. How are we at a point where that's a narrative, and not just a narrative, that's a bill in Congress, right? The federal government is out here trying to put laws in place to save the sport because, the players are getting paid and it's out of control. And yet there are some schools that want to triple the salary cap on revenue sharing. It's such a hilarious juxtaposition, right? And the reality is we don't have and have never had, right, an equitable way to distribute the money in college sports. The best teams get the most money. And again, maybe that's how it should be, right? But that's the reality of this, is that you've got programs like Wyoming that aren't going to make any money, but yet they're competing for the same championships as Ohio State, who's got more money and is just like, yeah, make it 60 million. Give us another few months and we'll make it 100 million if you really want us to, right? But hey, please, Congress, we need you to fix college sports because all of a sudden the athletes are getting paid and we need to be saved. We need to be saved because we never contemplated for all these millions and now billions of dollars we're getting from TV companies and from tickets and everything else that fans spend their money on. We just never conceived that we might have to pay the players that people are actually trying to watch. It's great. Now, one other money story for you. This is from the Big Mountain Podcast, and I apologize. I don't know what the Big Mountain Podcast is, but they reported that the Mountain West withheld $46.9 million from the schools that are leaving the conference to go to the Pac-12. So your Boise State, San Diego State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and Utah State, those five. The Mountain West withheld $46.9 million from those schools. They're allowed to do that, right? There's something in their bylaws about withholding money if a school decides to leave as effectively a down payment on their exit fees. So we're looking at under $50 million, but we're looking at nearly $50 million that the Mountain West has, in theory, from those schools. Is that all they get? Yeah, hopefully not. UNLV, I think, would be looking at like $11, $12 million, I believe, if that's all the money the Mountain West got. Remember, the original contracts that were signed with the Pac-12 and the grant of rights with the schools that were leaving, all of that money combined, the Mountain West should have been getting $155 million from all of those schools and from the Pac-2. Instead, that number is going to be less than that, and we've talked about this. There have been reports that it'll be less than half, whatever. $46.9 million appears to be some of the money they're recouping from that, and if you're the Mountain West, you better hope that's not all of it. And one other Mountain West story for you. This is just me being annoyed at things. The Mountain West has a slogan, and it used to be "At the Peak." They've now replaced that with "Built Bold," and I hate it. Mainly because I think "At the Peak," one of the best slogans any conference has ever had. You're the Mountain West. You're the Mountain Conference, and your slogan was "At the Peak." That's incredible. It plays in perfectly with your name. It implies, although not necessarily true, but it implies that you're at the pinnacle. You're at the top. It's a great slogan. And now it's "Built Bold." What does that even mean, "Built Bold"? You weren't built bold. You lost half your members to the Pac-12. We're "Built Bold." Unbelievable. Terrible slogan there. All right. Couple more things on today's show. I want to talk about Bill Foley and his pursuit of an NBA franchise. So we know that Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, has come out and has basically said, hey, we're expanding to Vegas and Seattle, but it's not official yet, so we're not officially starting the process. But these basically told us Vegas and Seattle are going to get expansion teams. We also know through reporting, I know the Review Journal had a story on it, but some other places report on it as well, that there are two at least known public potential ownership groups. Bill Foley is leading one. The other one has Magic Johnson as sort of the celebrity frontman, though he does have money. It's not like he's just out here with $7. He'd be a big part of it. But those are the two competing groups. Well, Bill Foley had a press release put out by the Golden Knights, important detail there, by the Golden Knights about, hey, Bill Foley wants to bring an NBA team to Las Vegas. Basically let the public, let the media know that Bill Foley is officially launching his campaign to be the owner of an expansion team in Las Vegas for the NBA. Reading the press release, it sounded desperate, or like he was trying to convince people that he should be the rightful owner of the expansion franchise coming to Las Vegas. And I'm going to read part of it, but the big theme was about how great the Golden Knights are, right? That's the big theme. So part of that press release said, Mr. Foley intends to build the franchise on a foundation already in place in Las Vegas. Majority ownership and control of the Vegas Golden Knights, the 2023 Stanley Cup champions, venue rights at T-Mobile Arena, and an organization that has operated a major professional sports franchise in the market since 2017. And then there's, after that, an entire paragraph about the Golden Knights. I counted 109 words in this press release about wanting an NBA team. That's what the press release is about. But 109 words are just saying the Golden Knights are awesome. And then there's this quote from Bill Foley. We built the Golden Knights into a championship organization from the ground up, and we are prepared to do it again with the same standard, the same commitment to this community, and the same insistence on winning. We have the market, a proven world-class arena, and a best-in-class organization in place. Our intention is to be ready the day the NBA is ready. The entire press release is, hey, Adam Silver, my hockey team is really great. Give me an NBA team too. I think that's a terrible argument. I think that's such a bad argument for why Bill Foley should be the owner of the NBA team in Las Vegas. I do not think the NBA will care at all for 1 second that the Golden Knights have been good and that's why Bill Foley should get the team. I don't think they're going to care about that at all. In fact, if I'm the NBA and I read that press release, I think I'd be less likely to give Bill Foley the franchise, because the way that press release read about how the Golden Knights are amazing, they won the Stanley Cup, that's what it's all about. The first point is that Bill Foley has control of the Golden Knights, the 2023 Stanley Cup champions. That's the first point they make in the entire press release. If I'm the NBA and I read that press release, I'm sitting here saying, so if Bill Foley owns the team, we're the little brother? If we give Bill Foley the team, we have to live in the Golden Knights shadow? The owner of our NBA franchise is going to care more about his hockey team than his basketball team? That's what I'm reading. When I read that entire thing about pumping up the Golden Knights and how great they are, I'm sitting here thinking, this guy cares more about the hockey team than he does the NBA team he's going to get. And that, to me, that's a huge negative, because the NBA coming to Vegas, their goal is going to be better, to be bigger, to be more popular than the Golden Knights. They probably won't pull that off. right? Maybe it's long in the future if they're a winning franchise and the Golden Knights are a losing franchise for a decade or something like, but that's what the NBA wants to do. They don't want to come to Vegas and be number 3 behind the Raiders and the Golden Knights. I think they probably accept, okay, we're not going to beat out an NFL franchise in most markets, but I don't think they're coming here saying, all right, we're going to be fine with being number 3 to the NHL. We're going to be fine living in the shadow of the Golden Knights. I don't think they want that. And reading that press release, I was like, I don't think you're saying the right things to get the franchise. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Bill Foley's already got a handshake deal and he's going to be the owner of the team, and maybe. But I read that press release and thought, wow, this sounds like somebody who's really, really trying to convince all of us that hey, I should own the team because look how good the Golden Knights were. Other parts of that press release that were noteworthy, there was one sentence about Foley expecting to have minority owners. Doesn't say who, doesn't say how many, anything like that. Doesn't say that he needs money or wants money from people. Just says, hey, we might have minority owners. And then there's one sentence that says they will contemplate, that's the word they used, contemplate a dedicated NBA practice and player health campus. So the actual details from the press release were meaningless, right? The details were, hey, the Golden Knights are really cool and Bill Foley wants an NBA team. We're probably going to have minority owners and we might build a practice facility. That's it. Those are the details from that press release. So we'll see. I do think one of the main points for Bill Foley, and if the NBA does give it to Foley, I think this will play a big part in it, is that they can put the team in T-Mobile Arena with legitimately no issues, right? And Adam Silver, he was on, I think it was with Dan Patrick this week, where he got asked, or he basically said 2028, 2029. That's the year they want the next expansion teams to start playing. So, if you're good at this here, if you're able to follow the timeline here, it's not that hard. They haven't awarded a franchise yet. They're not going to award a franchise until the winter of 2026, maybe not even until sometime in 2027, because again, the process isn't even official yet. And if that's the case, if we're talking end of 26, start of 27, that they announce, hey, Vegas is getting a team and this is the ownership group, you're not building a new arena in time for the 2028, 2029 season. That's not happening. So most likely, whoever gets the NBA franchise, the Golden Knights, or excuse me, the NBA team is probably playing at T-Mobile Arena for the first year or two. That would be, I think, a safe bet. Even if it's given to the Magic Johnson ownership group and they build a brand new arena somewhere else, they're still probably playing at T-Mobile Arena for the first year or two while a new arena is actually built. And that might be a reason to go with Foley. Hey, the arena's good and ready to go. We don't have to worry about some timeline and have an awkward introduction to the city where we're at T-Mobile Arena, but we're moving in 2 years to a different arena. Maybe they don't care about that. I think teams care too much about that, but the leagues tend to care about that. We've seen that with the Raiders and the A's where it's like, yeah, we don't want to play in Las Vegas. We're going to play in Sacramento in their AAA stadium instead. So maybe, but that I think is really the big question is how much does the NBA want the arena ready to go as opposed to, yeah, we can play at a temporary place for a couple of years and then move into a brand new arena. We'll see. Last thing, the World Cup. I'm recording this on Thursday before the United States plays Turkey. And you know why? Because the game doesn't matter. The United States is so good, we don't even need to play the game to win the group. And Turkey is already eliminated, so it doesn't matter to them either. I had tickets to this game. We sold those tickets. Good job. And we bought tickets to the potential round of 16 game that the United States will be in. So we better win our round of 32 game. And if we don't, that's a nightmare. But good job, United States. And so you're getting a show today. Now, I do have a couple World Cup thoughts for you. First off, I do think FIFA screwed up the tiebreakers big time at this World Cup. So if you're not paying as much attention to it as I am, I don't know what's wrong with you. But in the past, when you're in group stage, the tiebreaker in group was goal difference, right? If two teams finished with the same amount of points after their group games, who had the better goal difference was who got seeded higher in the group standings. They changed that to where it's now head-to-head. So if two teams finish with the same amount of points, who won the game that they played, right? If they tied the game that they played, then it does go to goal difference, but who won the game? The issue is that because head-to-head is now a tiebreaker, instead of goal difference, we have had so many teams clinch first place in the group or be eliminated and guaranteed to finish fourth place in the group after playing just 2 of their 3 group stage games. Mexico did that. The United States did that. Germany did that, right? Where we know, hey, those teams have won the group after playing 2 games. Their last game does not matter. And here's the thing. Take the United States, for example. Going into the last group game, I should say, the U.S. had 6 points. Paraguay and Australia both had 3. Under the old tiebreaker, the United States would have not have clinched the group before the final game. The U.S. would be 3 points ahead of 2 teams that could catch them on points. And then it would have come down to goal difference. The U.S. going into those games had a better goal difference. They would have been heavy favorites to still win the group, even if they managed to lose that game. But they still would have had to play the final game as if it were a real game in case Australia or Paraguay started winning a game by 3 or 4 goals, right? And same for the other end, right? Turkey on 0 points. Australia and Paraguay both have 3. They could catch one of those teams to get to third place because some of the third place teams advance. But because of head-to-head, they lost to both of those teams. They cannot catch them anymore. Now, it might be more fair to do it via head-to-head, right? Like, oh, if 2 teams finish tied for second place, one team gets eliminated and one team advances, and you beat that team, that feels wrong. But in terms of, hey, this is entertainment, and we don't want to have games that mean nothing like the United States and Turkey, it's stupid. And it's led to more teams not having anything to play for in their final game. I think they screwed that up. I think it's a bad tiebreaker, and they need to change it. Good news is the next World Cup isn't for 4 years, so they probably will. This World Cup, though, has been awesome. I mean, the stars have showed up. It's ridiculous. Like, the amount of goals that the star players have scored, Lionel Messi, Kylian Mbappe, Erling Haaland, all playing on the same day, all finding a way to score at least 2 goals every time. Even Ronaldo, Vinicius Jr., like, the big names have showed up and scored goals. Lots of them. Like, Messi has 5 goals in 2 games. That used to, like, 5 goals is like an unbelievable World Cup. 5 goals is like, oh, you were one of the best players in the tournament. He's done it in 2 games. Like, it's unreal. And by the way, there's multiple players just a goal behind him. It's insane how many goals we've seen from the absolute best players. That doesn't happen in soccer that much. I think it's one of the problems why soccer doesn't catch on as much is because the star players, we don't give them the quarterback treatment because that we do in the NFL or the best player in the NBA. Because it's like, all right, well, they didn't score today. Well, that's kind of normal. You're not supposed to score in every single game. Whereas with a quarterback or a star basketball player, yeah, he scored 34 points today, or he scored 18. What a nightmare. Or the quarterback completed 71% of his passes. Oh, no, he only completed 51%. He's terrible. It's harder to do that in soccer because these guys don't usually score this much, but they all are. Also great about this, U.S., Mexico, Canada all advanced to the round of 32. Yes, they got easier groups. They should have advanced, but like that makes the tournament better that the host, when you have 3 hosts here in North America, all advance. And Mexico rolling, the U.S. rolling at least through the first 2 games. Turkey a game doesn't matter. Canada finished second in their group. What a bunch of losers. So they don't even get to play in Canada anymore, right? Had they won their group, their first 2 knockout stage games would have been in Canada. They blew that, so now all their games, however far they go, are only in the United States. What a bunch of losers. But the World Cup is great. The United States is already into the round of 32. That is next week. And that's the next time you'll hear from me. This has been Technically Correct with Tyler Bischoff. Thank you so much for tuning in.